Now, are you a car guy?
No. I know some people really get into them. I've had a cousin that was big into restoring cars. Right. And I guess in the old days, back when he had, I remember he bought this old rusted piece of shit, 56 Chevy, and he restored it. It took a couple of years, but there was also the adventure at that time of like, hey, I need to find a side mirror for this car. Let's go to They go to junkyards and look around, and it might take him weeks or months even of weekends wherever. Hey, I'm gonna go here, and he found it, and he was just so thrilled. Now I guess you go online and find it pretty quickly. So I think some of that, but no, it's never really that much into cars. If it's neat, I'll look at it. But
everything's turned into a business. eBay's ruined. Etsy's getting questionable. And it's just all, and they're all Nigerian pirates nowadays. Yeah. So, but now, what was your first car? What was your very first car?
My first car was a 1965 Oldsmobile.
Yes.
Now, of course, it was 65, and I guess I had it in, late 70s.
Oldsmobile, what model?
Oh, man, I can't remember.
I had a 73, at some point in my life, not a good point, I think, I had a 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88.
Wow.
It was like...
yes, I think 88 was the model.
It was giant. It was green. The only good part about metal, I mean, it was a tank. The only good part about it is when you get on the freeway, you were priority. Everybody moved, and it bounced. It like right in a blimp. It was one, but it was an awful car.
Do you remember the car your parents drove when you were growing up?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we had all of the classic cars that would blow up. We had the Pinto, Ford Pinto in red, where if you rear-ended it, it would blow up. My dad sold it to someone who clearly didn't know and got a great deal. We had a Ford. My dad was worked for Ford Corp for a very long time. And so he had Fords forever. A Ford Comet. We had a Ford Comet.
Oh, I remember those too.
Briefly, we had a Maverick, I believe. And then we start getting into but before that, my father, through his family, had a Model T and a Model A.
Nice.
Unfortunately, they disappeared after a while. He's not sure what happened to him. He wasn't sure. My first car in high school, I was I was a jock nerd mix back in the day. My dad got me a 1985 Camaro.
Oh, those are nice.
Silver with chromed out wheels. It was so nice. It was really nice. It was the basic model, and it was just a Camaro, but it was a great car. Car.
Yeah. And the one thing that never changes are, Buicks. They're always an old man's car. Right. And they were an old man's car back in the 60s. And every now and then, I mean, I know that they have a new ad campaign. Yeah. They've got hot women on there, millennial types trying to say, hey, no, it's not an old man's car anymore. But you drive down the freeway and you see a Buick, catch up with it, look in the back seat. There's always an old lady sitting in the back seat of a Buick. And I started to think about it.
She's an option.
It is. It comes with it. It's standard equipment. There's an old lady in the back seat of a Buick. Every one I've ever seen, there's an old lady in the back seat.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. I will look. You're right though. Their new marketing campaign, or they're trying to be a little bit more trendy. They make a solid car. I just don't know if they're cool. But speaking of millennials, did you see they finally categorized them, or they put years on them? It's official.
Oh, okay.
For whatever group is official that does these generations. But as a generation, if you were born in between 1981 and 2000, you are officially a millennial.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So I don't know if that means anything, but article after article nowadays I see just in a cursory look through Google. Yeah. Why people hate millennials? Why people think millennials are lazy? It's really funny. Yeah. I think the millennial power is imploding. They just have to get out of the market. Markets and affecting the markets. But we'll see.
Yeah. I would have guessed it around a little later than that, maybe 83, 84, but
it took apparently this was quite a think tank discussion. It was 81 to 2000, which encompasses a lot of people, and in fact quite a few people I know are right in there. Now, granted, you have to, it's just a generation.
And
it's not a big deal.
It's interesting. I mean, nobody likes anybody else's generation, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why we can piss on millennials because we're not in the group, but we'll pretty much piss on whoever comes after them as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And but I was looking at there's a website, classmates.com.
Yes.
Yeah, and they had some old yearbooks from my high school years, and I couldn't help myself. I was looking through it and laughing my ass off. Because you look at it, and every generation has their own way of marking themselves. Yeah. Whether it's a hairstyle or a clothing style, which later on looks ridiculous when you think about it. I remember there was a picture of the guy who got because we gave out awards back then. Who's the best looking girl in school? Who's the best looking guy? You don't do that shit anymore, I guess, but we did back then. And one of them was who were the stylers, and here's this guy, and he's got platform shoes on and double knit, bell-bottom pants and a vest and a hat. That's how this kid dressed to school. And he got the award. I don't remember him, but it said, the styler. But at some point he realized, I look like a horse's ass dressed like this, and I think it's time that the bell bottoms and the and the platform shoes get tossed out.
And his name was Boogie Goldnick.
Yeah, but they do that, and then you look now. You look at a lot of guys with women too with tattoos. That's not something that we did in my my generation. Right. It was you did if you were in the military. That was a sign of the military. My dad has a tattoo, but I don't. He has a tattoo of an anchor. He was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. So, he had that. So
my father never did. He was in the Navy as well.
Is that right?
Never did. It wasn't his deal, and I don't have one either. But you're right. I mean, they're globally accepted now, and I absolutely, as an art form, think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
As a statement, I don't care. And most people put them in the weirdest places where you can't see them to enjoy them. If I buy a painting, I want to put it up and see the painting. Yeah. I don't want to put it on the back of my neck and But a statement's a statement. That's fine. But I started surfing around. I was thinking about stuff to talk about on the show today, and cars came up, and I thought, what a great thing. Now Las Vegas has had some very interesting cars, but I think I found things that I want. You'll laugh. And these are in no particular order, but Liberace.
Oh yeah, he has some great cars.
He has some great cars. I was fortunate enough to go to the museum before it closed, and honestly, it was a fantastic museum. I mean, you can think what you want about Liberace, but he was a pioneer as far as an entertainer. He was a pioneer as far as a person. And his flamboyance really was an act. I mean, he was, pretty crazy, but he was still just a normal everyday guy most of the time. But his car that I'm putting on our list. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have a top 7.
All right.
Okay. Liberace, the 1961 Rolls-Royce Phantom 5.
Wow.
That for over a decade sat at the Las Vegas Hilton. And this was not the one that was encrusted in crystals. I also saw that when I was at the museum. That was another Rolls-Royce model, and it was completely covered in a mixture of Waterford and Swarovski crystal. But the Rolls-Royce Phantom 5, and to the day it was sold in auction, it ran like a top. It was fantastic. It was a beautiful car, and he also had the another Rolls Royce that was. Do you remember the one that was in the American flag? It was completely painted. These are the 3 Rolls Royces he had, and these are how he transported himself throughout the city. Was these? But the American flag one was. You had mentioned to me in the pre-show the Imperial Palace Car Museum, and that one was at the Car Museum.
Yeah,
and I don't know what happened to it. I couldn't find any research on it. But now, did you ever see him live?
No, I didn't. No, I do remember hearing once that when he was a boy, his mother yelled up the stairs, "Liberace, has a piano tuner come yet?" And he said, "No, but his eyes are getting glassy." Old, I mean, who else understands these jokes if somebody knows what Liberace is? But no, I never had a chance to see him live.
Yeah, so. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And I'm not sure. I had meant to ask my mom if she did, but and the most recent show regarding him was the one, starring Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a stark reality of what Liberace's life was. But no, I saw him many, many times. I mean, I saw him on when I was watching reruns of Laugh-In, and Saturday Night Live. I believe he was on one time. He was a global entertainer. He was just loved. He just happened to be, much like the joke that you just told.
Yeah.
But now, second one, we're gonna jump to the current one, current movies. The Hangover, of course.
All right.
They drove around town, a 1965 Mercedes-Benz 220 SE in silver gray. Now, I looked at that one, and I was going to put the van on there. They were in a van.
Yeah, I remember the van.
But I decided to use the Mercedes. Now, I have a couple of people that I know that were in The Hangover. I deal with a lot of entertainers, and they were in The Hangover as extras. Do you like the Hangover films?
I saw them. I liked the first one. I thought I would like the second one because it was in Bangkok and I'd been there.
Yes.
But I was really disappointed in it. I thought it was just like, well, let's just try to see if we can make the first one a second time. And I said, no. You already went down that road. Just because it's in a different country, it's the same road. So I didn't like the second one, and that was it. I haven't seen.
So not the third.
I haven't seen the third. Yeah.
I've seen them all, and you're right. They tend to rehash, and try to capture the, what they did with the first one. It's funny. It's absolutely toilet humor, college humor.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They returned to Vegas. They were away from Vegas, obviously, in 2, and returned to Vegas a bit in 3. But I love to watch Vegas films. I love how they're depicted and how silly they are. And the whole Mike Tyson scene and the tiger and the chicken were fantastic. But the Mercedes-Benz that I mentioned is actually still here. It was owned briefly, from the research I saw. I never knew this, but it was owned briefly by Lonnie Hammergren, the former lieutenant governor here. Do you remember Lonnie's? Have you ever seen Lonnie's the fence of his home, his estate?
No.
Yeah.
Where does he live?
He lives in, Northtown, the better part of Northtown, which
there is a better part of Northtown.
Well,
I guess everything's relative.
The fringe, as it goes south, yes.
Yeah.
But Lonnie Hammergren, former lieutenant governor here in Nevada, and he had a wonderful Las Vegas collection. He had things that weren't Vegas. He had the Mercedes-Benz, the 220 SE. He had the one of the original Batman cars. That I actually, when I was working within the station casino area, I used it for promotion for Batman, the movie. But his backyard became a touring spot, much like the Neon Boneyard, where all the neon signs go. Except he collected statues and tapestries.
Yeah, I've seen that on the news.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's just like, there are that personality type that just collect a bunch of shit without really almost a rhyme or reason. Like, I know he had some stuff that was like, wow, where did he get that and why? It's like sometimes you collect something and there's a lot of that, so you kind of expect it. But what his collection, I remember seeing that on the news, is really quite diverse. It is, and
as a personality, I've met him several times, and he was kind of a nutbag, but he was a fun guy.
Yeah.
He was much like our previous, our glorious mayor, Oscar Goodman.
Yes.
Very much the same generation and personality. They have seen a lot in this town. They've seen a lot of changes, but you're right. Very eclectic collection, but I think without equal. It was an amazing collection. And if you pass by his property, you can still see things sticking out from the giant walls that he has.
Yeah.
But I don't know who owns the estate and who's controlling it now, but it's still around. And now we move to my favorite. Because I used to watch this as a kid, never even realized, even thought that I was going to be in Las Vegas by the time I had this little podcast. the original Vegas show starring Robert Urich.
Yes,
where he was a PI, sort of. And he drove a 1957 Ford Thunderbird in flame red.
Yeah, that's a nice car.
Yeah, and I loved that show. I've loved all the Vegas shows.
Yeah.
Vegas, and then there was Las Vegas with, Josh Duhamel and Molly Sims and Scott Kahn's father, which I can't remember his name.
Yeah, you're getting to that age point there.
Yes,
you know that guy I'm talking about. Exactly. He was in that show.
That guy with the thing.
Yeah.
But
who was in that other movie with that other guy.
Yeah, and then they had another Vegas show, which was short-lived but really good, starring Michael Chiklis.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was a mobbed-up guy, but they were all fantastic. But Vegas was my favorite, mainly because they had a character in there, and this man, both of them are passed away, actually. Robert Urich has passed away. Huggy Bear, you remember Huggy Bear?
Huggy Bear, yeah.
There was no rhyme or reason for what this guy was. He was a half pimp, half informant, friend, and he was always riding around in this Ford Thunderbird.
Yeah, because they always wanted to make him sympathetic character. Yes. But on the other hand, it's like, well, if he's a pimp, how can he's exploiting women, or if he's a drug dealer. So yeah, he was always kind of like he's always on the fringe. He has to be an informant. He has to know what's going on the street, and he looks the part. Yeah. But you never really quite got into that. Because I remember watching that. I'm not sure the years it was on, but I was I went to Japan in '84. So there's kind of between 1984 and '99, where almost any TV show that came out, I didn't see it. Now I've seen Friends once, and it was dubbed in Japanese because they had it over there.
Oh, but that was horrendous.
Yeah, well, I can understand it. It was funny, and they had other shows. They had Beverly Hills 90210 on in Japan. And when I moved back, I actually saw it. It was the first time I had seen it in English, because it was always dubbed in Japanese. Right. So there were a lot of shows that I never saw. Seinfeld, I never saw that. I still haven't seen an episode.
I cut off Seinfeld midway. The whole show about nothing got to be not very impressive to me. I'm actually, it's funny you mentioned Friends. I'm actually rewatching that. I'm on season 9 of the 10 season thing, and you know what? It was actually pretty good. And I think I told you the comedians in cars getting coffee, Seinfeld.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. It's fantastic, and what a great way to do a podcast-like situation. I mean, he's got the juice to, really produce it well.
Sure.
And he's got some fantastic cars. If you're a car guy, check that out. Comedians in cars getting coffee.
It would be interesting to go back and see the old Robert Urich show, just again, looking around how the city has changed. Because, I did that article on the blog about the movie that, The Night Stalker, and just looking at the background and the scenes, realized, wow, it's so much different now. And that was 71. So
yes, I looked at clips of it, which are rare. It's kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
And it's not on Hulu. I was disappointed. I was going to watch the whole thing. But periodically he would drive into the Valet of the Riviera, and then he would also drive into the Valet of the Sahara. Now those were only clips I could get. I'm not quite sure where the show exactly was based, but you're right. The town had a sparse look to it, and in the show, the way it was filmed, it had this sort of yellowish haze to it.
Yeah.
And it gave it a very deserty, kind of isolated feel to it, but it was still, Robert driving around, and the most ridiculous premises. I mean, not like all shows aren't silly premises, but the 1957 Ford Thunderbird, and it wasn't anything special. It was just it was a big deal because of the big old red Thunderbird rolling through. Now the movie Casino, which I just recently watched, 1981 Cadillac Eldorado Biarritz. And I looked it up in the Scorsese opens it up talking about the car. Well, actually, opens and closes it, talking about the car, how it had an extra plate, and I was very interested because the bomb didn't kill De Niro's character and so on and so forth. It actually did. It actually had extra plating where he said it did. I thought that was just a movie prop or movie line, but it actually did have an extra plate
Did the original, I mean, the real person, Lefty Rosenthal, did he put that in there?
No. It came off the line. It came off the line with this extra plate, sheeting at the dash, and I thought that was very interesting. That wasn't just a vehicle for Scorsese, but 1981 Cadillac Eldorado. It was, again, it wasn't a special car, but in Casino, it was a fantastic car.
Yeah,
I mean, it'll go down in the history of movies. Now here's one near and dear to your heart.
Yes,
Fear and Loathing.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Now,
maybe in a couple of movies. Bill Murray did one back in the 80s.
Yes.
Where he played Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah. Not Where the Buffalo Roam. Oh, was it? It was Where the Buffalo Roam. Oh, yes. Yeah. Now, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, about Hunter S. Thompson and his travels here, and in his head too. This is controversial, and some people are going to call me on this. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm ready for it. I'm remarking that the movie with the 1971 Impala called The Great Red Shark.
Yeah,
that's what it was called. It was a giant red Impala. Again, nothing special, but it's what they drove here. Now, people are going to say, no, it's not. It's the Cadillac DeVille. No, that's not true. They drove here in the Great Red Shark. They then rented the Cadillac DeVille to drive around Las Vegas. So,
yeah.
If anybody calls me on that, I don't know. I still could be wrong.
Well, I remember, when I first read the book, and he talks about the Circus and the performers overhead. I figured he was just tripping.
Yeah.
And then I came here and I said, no, he wasn't. That's true. There really are people on the trapeze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the other hotels do that now. Right, I mean, I've gone to the Hard Rock and I've seen girls, over the tables.
Oh, sure. Yeah, party pits. I'm not a huge fan. I have a lot of friends that are actually they score some extra money doing go-go or party pits or things like that. And there's nothing bad about it. It's just that that's not real gambling.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
That's a distraction. And I was recently filming a poker tournament, and those are real gamblers because they did not want me there. Yeah. And I was there on behalf of the casino and hotel, and man, they were pissy. And the Asian guys way pissy. They do not like to be filmed.
No.
But no party pits. Now Hunter S. Thompson no longer with us.
No, he died.
Yeah, he died. Now, did you like Thompson's writing?
Yeah, I did. I mean, again, because it captures that era.
Yeah.
And I thought that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was, again, you don't know where the trip starts and where reality ends, so to speak. Yeah. And I think maybe that was one of the points of that.
Yeah.
The town has changed, but I don't think that part of it has.
I don't think so.
No, it is still like you have to see this. And I remember even in the 90s when they started coming out with the free shows, the Mirage with the volcano and everything, and people would describe it to me, and it sounds like, really? They had, wait a minute, you're telling me they had a pirate battle right there in the desert on the Strip? I mean, come on, it's a sidewalk. And you have to kind of see it to believe.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have like Rio, Carnival in the Sky, which has, changed a million times since then. And, I remember telling people about Circus and how they have complete circus acts, and it was just incredulous. They couldn't believe that. But no, absolutely. Now, are Hunter S. Thompson and Timothy Leary, were they of the same generation?
Yeah. Timothy Leary was a little bit older, I believe, because but they were around at the same time, because Timothy Leary was 60s, and then Hunter S. Thompson was late 60s, I think 70s.
Yeah.
Now, if you get his book, or if you're reading one of the features of it that kind of goes that people forget about, were the great drawings that appear in the book
Thompson
by Ralph Steadman.
Okay,
his artwork, it's great, and it really matches, I think, that the trippiness of the text.
Well, I think Thompson and Leary, for that matter, they were the first artists that where their opinions of the regarding drugs were widely accepted.
Yeah.
And they I think they changed a generation as it regards the feelings regarding drugs. Now, of course, nowadays everything is different regarding that because it's truly not good for you. But it's interesting. I've not read the book. I've seen the film. I think Depp did an amazing job, and I think Thompson was on the set of that film, helping as a consultant.
Okay.
Which would have been just bizarre, both for him and for the people. Because I think he was an odd duck anyway.
Yeah. And another one who was odd, who produced some really far out stuff. Philip K. Dick.
Oh yeah.
Now I have a friend whose father was a writer and knew Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
And he told me, his mother couldn't stand the guy because he was so psychotic and crazy.
Yeah.
He said he was over Dick's house once and he's just scrambling around looking in his drawers and he just pours out a handful of pills. Yeah. Doesn't even know what they are and he swallows them down. He's got a gun there in the drawer and he takes it out and then somebody knocks at the door and he goes up there and he holds the gun at the door. Like, he's just so paranoid about something happening. And it's like, maybe we think about a wild imagination the guy had. Well, maybe, really what he wrote about was, on one hand, part imagination,
right,
but also, is like, this is reality to him.
Yeah. Now, Philip K. Dick, Minority Report, yes?
He wrote, yes. He wrote what was then the basis for Minority Report, right. Man in the High Castle.
Oh, Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was Blade Runner.
Yes.
Yes. Among others.
Now, have you seen the Netflix production of Man in the High Castle?
I think it was Amazon.
Or Amazon, I apologize. Yes, I'm sorry.
Now they ran with the story because the novel is only like 150, 160 pages.
Right.
And it kind of ends like it did at the end of season 1.
Right.
The Amazon version, they introduced other characters. Of course, they had to get a series out of it.
Sure.
But the premise is there. That was the premise of Dick's novel. Yeah. So I did see that.
Now, how about Blade Runner 2049?
I haven't seen the new one. No,
I just saw it.
Oh, how is it?
It was good. I mean, it's Ridley Scott, of course, and he's this term is overused, but I truly think he's a visionary. And if you look at the film, if you take out the people, and you look at the film, his use of color, his use of shadows and shading, and of course all the technology, it is a standalone film just for that. Now, if you throw in Gosling, who I think in certain roles has been fantastic. He's a little cocky in his presentation for me, but I still enjoyed it. And if you're looking for old Harrison, man, he doesn't show up until it's a long film. Ridley Scott gives you your money's worth for sure. He doesn't show up until a long time into the film. But I think it was a fair sequel, if you will. I hope they leave it there. But I think those of us that enjoyed the initial Blade Runner, will enjoy this one. I think you're going to love it. So
good.
Yeah. So back to our lovely town, Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. I had to include Elvis.
Yes, of course.
And he drove. He was a race car driver.
Yes.
Party guy.
Yeah.
Good looking, and young Elvis, thin Elvis.
Yes, this was the not the older jumpsuit.
Fat Elvis. No. Although there's a fat Elvis now at the welcome sign.
Remember they had the Elvis-orama?
Yes. Elvis-orama. Elvis-orama, for those of you who don't know, Elvis-orama was a complete Elvis museum. It was fantastic, but it was in a horrendous part of town. You did not want to go there.
Yeah,
and it was both fronted and flanked by strip clubs and adult bookstores.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But Elvis and Viva Las Vegas drove an Elva MK6 race car. Not street legal. But that's the car that was in there. An Elva. I wasn't familiar with the car. I looked it up. It was a barn burner back then. I mean, it's not a big deal now, but it's a classic car. And I thought I saw Jay Leno owns one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Does he own his cars or does he lease those? I often wondered. I thought I heard somewhere that...
Well, there's no doubt he has the juice to own them. But I'm not sure. I think I have to go with he owns them because he has a fantastic garage and he's such a car. He's so knowledgeable. He was on Seinfeld's show, and man, it was those two talk about cars. And lastly, I had to include Mr. Bond.
Oh, of course,
James. Diamonds Are Forever, and in that one, through portions of Vegas, although I looked this one up, they were never in Vegas. Mustang Mach 1. And that one is still considered. Nice that is a classic muscle car, a fast car. But now, did you see these films? Did you say
at one point or another? I think I've seen almost all of them. Yes. I mean, but I don't. My memory now for movies in particular kind of goes in one ear and out the other, unless I've seen it a second or third time. There's certain movies. I think David Fincher's movies are ones that I enjoy watching multiple times because I think he really gets that the point of. The novelist John Gardner, who's long dead now, died in a motorcycle crash, I think in the 80s. And he was a good novelist, but he was a better writer. He was a better teacher of writing. Mm-hmm. And he had said that a writer's job was to create a continuous stream of vivid images in the mind of the reader. Mm-hmm. And of course, a filmmaker has to do the same thing. Right. Obviously, they are using images, but they have to be realistic. And what I like about David Fincher, and I look at a movie like Zodiac, which I can remember because I grew up in San Francisco, and I was 10 years old at the time, is how he captures all of those little details. And I think I think to him it's almost obsessive. Maybe a lot of people don't realize that, like, so what? But yes, it's those. He really makes you feel like you're in that era, and he did that with Mindhunter on Netflix. Little things like the fact that on the airplanes they used to serve drinks in glasses,
right?
And they smoked, and little things that let you know that this is a different time. This isn't today, and these people are just wearing these old clothes. Right. These are little details that he has there that maybe people don't really consciously notice, but he realized, oh yeah, that's right. They used to serve, and they would mix the drink.
Oh, absolutely.
And they bring it to you at your
if you see stock footage of people arriving back in the days when Bugsy opened up Flamingo and the ensuing, launches of all the casinos, if you look at the stock footage of people getting back when you used to get off on the tarmac and coming down those stairs, the men wore suits and ties, the ladies wore lovely dresses, and they changed into exactly the same thing when they went to the lounges to see, Sinatra, Rickles, and Sammy Davis and Dino and the town's changed and unfortunately I don't think we'll ever see that again.
I know. Even when we worked at the hotel, I remember people would ask about lounge shows. So well, there really aren't any. I mean, they had some
cover bands.
They had cover bands and they had a few entertainers that might have like Earl Turner, I think it was.
Earl Turner, I loved him.
And he was one that kind of got over that, or even somebody like Clint Holmes. Now, he was bigger than just a lounge singer because he had his regular show, but he had kind of been of a style like that and just got and then built up a big enough name that he could command that. But those type of lounges that were that were on all the time and you could drop in and it was basically free because you had, you just buy a drink. Those were gone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Earl Turner, fantastic. More of a Berry Gordy, junior style. Clint Holmes, a wonderful entertainer and fantastic musician.
Yes.
And then I remember the Shintas. Remember them?
Yes, the Shintas. And one of them died not long ago.
Yes, they passed away. And these are folks that were classic lounges of Las Vegas where you would walk in and they were the maitre d's that had been there since the times of Sinatra. They're sort of all crippled over, but I mean they were very willing to have that 20 slipped in their hand and get you a better table, so you don't have to sit with all the schmucks. You can get a two-top and enjoy the show. No, those days it's tough.
I think tough. Desert Inn, we mentioned this before, I think that was the last one that had maitre d' seating.
And back in the day when my parents were visiting Vegas, they were free. We'd see people like this for free. And I just recently looked into the comedian Bill Burr, who, if you ever have a chance to look at Bill Burr's past work on Netflix, he's hysterical. The Irreverence, John, you gotta see him. I was looking at tickets, and he's going to be at the new Park Theater over there at the Monte Carlo that's being completely revamped. $140 for the cheap ones. And then you got to sit with people. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. But has turned into because it's volume over quality. But I don't know. I used to tell people I yearn for the Vegas of old, but I never experienced it. I've always experienced the contemporary style of Vegas. And I don't know. Do you think it'll ever swing back? Will the pendulum go as far back as what we're talking about?
Well, I think the problem is always what has happened is we've talked about this before, is in the old days when the mob ran the town, they were concerned about the casino. and they were making so much money with the casino, they didn't care about anything else. So I mean, I know old time, bellmen who would say, yeah, they didn't care what kind of scam you ran. They weren't trying to, ease in on you or whatever.
Right.
They only cared about the take at the casino because that's where they were raking in the money. That's why so many things were free. And now with everything, everything costs money. And like you said, you can't see somebody even cheaply. That's a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, you buy 2 tickets, you're out $300.
Yeah.
So the prices keep going up. I mean, you can see a hockey game here costs $200.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It's not a playoff game.
No, and everybody I know is going in with another group of people to get season tickets, and you have to share a season, or a half season.
Yeah.
Now, granted, go Golden Knights. They're amazing opening season.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
The cost, the pricing, I don't know. We'll see. I hope it does swing back. I hope we get back to a simpler time where it's just pure entertainment, hockey included, well, John, that was fun. I love talking about old Vegas. Coming up, we're going to talk about classic cheats. I looked up, I got some research already started, cheats, and we've talked about crimes in Vegas, but not the cheats, not the ones that have tried to screw the craps table and try to steal chips
and get their name in the black book.
That's right, the black book. So stay tuned next week for that. But if you want to contact us or catch me on anything that's wrong, because it's possible my research could be wrong. Or if you have stuff to add, I would love to hear that. You can send us an email at thepodbaydoorlv@gmail.com. Again, this is thepodbaydoorlv@gmail.com, and just send me anything you'd like. And we're still having that T-shirt and mousepad giveaway, so give us a review on Podbean or iTunes, and send me a screenshot of that and to that email address, and we will send you your choice, maybe even both if I'm feeling good. For John, this is Jamie, and we will see everyone next week. Thanks to everyone listening and watching. You can catch the Podbay Door on the Podbean app or any of your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel at the Podbay Door Podcast. Please download, like, and subscribe. Our social connectivity screen is coming up. Check in with us on Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress. The Podbay Door is closed and talent is out. Hey everybody, thank you very much for tuning into the show. We would love to hear your show suggestions and comments. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, please click to subscribe. You can also connect with us on Facebook using @PBD Podcast, on Twitter using @TPBD Podcast, and on WordPress at thepodbaydoor.wordpress.com.